Logan Paul is one of the best and worst decisions that the WWE has ever made, and given that it was a Vince McMahon decision, that's saying something. Polarizing to the point of bipolar, he's someone that everyone in the WWE wants to work with and also cannot stand the idea of working with. He's been responsible for high-flying highlights and also cryptocurrency scams. You get kind of everything at once with this guy. His track record involves him trying desperately to find work with The Rock, work against CM Punk, while also being openly transphobic and being caught on camera with paedophiles. It's a very difficult circumstance managing a guy like Logan Paul, who you never know what's coming next. I thought I'd take the opportunity with this WTF Wrestling to talk about the benefits and drawbacks of Logan Paul, both when it comes to the bringing in of celebrity wrestlers by the WWE and also the controversy that they can cause, bringing in eyes and also the risks when it comes to talent, being a great heel and also by many accounts a garbage human being. Let's talk Logan Paul. We're going to alternate between positive and negative here because there are genuinely equal parts to both. I want to start by saying Logan Paul is incredibly talented. The WWE have brought in some terrible celebrity wrestlers in the past, and the vast majority of them were at best embarrassing. It's not as bad as the whole Jay Leno thing in WCW, but it still got pretty bad. Over the last few years though, they've turned that around. A large part of it was bringing in Pat McAfee, who hit the ground not just running, but basically surfing. And then Logan Paul, someone who's not just an experienced boxer, but he showed a level of high-flying acumen that basically puts him level with someone like a Will Ospreay. Nearly. He was originally brought in by Sami Zayn just for the purpose of being a celebrity, to try and add a bit more pop to a Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens match. How distant we are from that, though of course it did lead to the whole, jackass segment at WrestleMania with Sami Zayn before he got good again. We later saw Logan Paul working with The Miz against Rey and Dominic Mysterio, and that was an interesting platform to build on when you consider he was supposed to be a good guy. Imagine now Logan Paul being a good guy. It does not make any sense. Since then, he's largely been used as a high-flying hit reel, working with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, working in Saudi Arabia with Roman Reigns. He's been at the top of the card almost the entire time. He's worked Money in the Bank ladder matches to try and add a bit more gravitas to those, while also creating one of the most memorable moments in Royal Rumble history when he went chest to chest with Ricochet, and not in a sexy way. It hurt. The man knows how to get attention. This will also be our first negative. An actual wrestling talent is one of the ways in which he's done that. There are many reasons to hate this guy. I'm gonna get to them. But there's also, when it comes to wrestling, a genuine respect you have to offer. He may well be the greatest celebrity to ever step into the wrestling world. He gets wrestling. His matches are compelling, and there's a reason he's been up against the top guys. At SummerSlam last night, he lost the United States Championship to LA Knight, and when he initially won that championship, there weren't many arguments, despite the fact he hasn't defended it basically at all. So while our first positive is that he's undoubtedly super talented, our first negative has to be the intense controversy he brings with him everywhere he goes. YouTubers and influencers, quite a lot of the big ones, have a history of being at least somewhat problematic. PewDiePie and racism, for example. Hell, most of the people Smosh has brought on as guests over the years have been cancelled since. This, historically, is fairly common amongst YouTubers, but Logan Paul takes the biscuit. One of the big reasons Logan Paul has got the audience that he has is because of controversies like this. For example, earlier in his career, he did go to a forest in Japan where people are renowned for unaliving themselves, record it, and broadcast it. Literal dead bodies we're talking here, guys. Literal dead bodies. There's also his work with Mr. Beast creating cryptocurrencies that Logan Paul and Mr. Beast made a lot of money from. And those that they convinced to invest made minus a lot of money from. It's difficult to reliably call cryptocurrency a scam when so many people are getting very rich from it and so many people are getting incredibly poor from it. It's almost like the rich just want to stay rich. There'll be more recent examples to come, but to quote Eric Bischoff as we're doing the WCW comparisons, controversy creates cash. Logan Paul's popularity is based on the fact that he's not a good person, or at least certainly in many of his videos and controversies comes across as a bad person. This also translates into our next big positive. In the wrestling world, if you're a bad person, you make the company a lot of money because great heels make great faces, and having Logan Paul be the one to lose to LA Knight is huge for LA Knight's career. Logan Paul doesn't just get booed, he gets relentlessly hated. Some of that is for standard wrestling reasons, but some of it is for genuinely good reasons, and that makes him such a good heel. To make a comparison with Vince McMahon, which I doubt he will thank me for, Bret Screwed Bret and the Montreal Screwjob were genuine things which made Vince McMahon hateable on screen, and as such, Austin vs. McMahon was a massive success. Sometimes bad people make for great wrestlers. The difficulty then comes in separation. How do you, as a wrestling fan, separate this person that I should boo from this bad person that they are underneath, if they are indeed a bad person? There are plenty of people in that locker room who have what I believe to be questionable political views. However, that does not make them bad people, it just means that they believe different things than I do. With Logan Paul, that doesn't seem to be quite the case, more on that later. But while he's undoubtedly a great heel and working with top-level talent like Seth Rollins really helped to reintegrate Seth Rollins from heel into face, you do have to question several more aspects of Logan Paul's life. For example, despite being a supposed full-time wrestler, and he has said on a number of occasions he will be at the WWE a lot more than he used to be, he is still notoriously unavailable and unreliable. He's simply, to put it plain, busy. He's a very busy man, and not like Brock Lesnar's busy, he was just basically hanging out on a farm. Logan Paul does everything. He boxes, he makes celebrity appearances and endorsements, he has his YouTube channels, and in general, he's not too interested in being a day-to-day wrestler, and that shows. This has been the start of a number of problems backstage with a number of different wrestlers, particularly the women's locker room, who are finding their time being swallowed up by Logan Paul on his rare appearances, and then even when he isn't there, everyone's still talking about Poochie. Don't get me wrong, the guy pops a rating when he's there, but he's there so rarely, he's actually less commonly appearing than Roman Reigns, who has such an infamously limited date contract that nobody expects to see Roman Reigns. I did say at SummerSlam, you'll never see it coming. Moving then to our last positive, and this is where the WWE really do benefit. Logan Paul gets a vast quantity of brand new potential fans' eyes onto the WWE product. In fact, while AEW were destroying WWE in the younger demographic, it is the appearances of Bad Bunny and Logan Paul that turned that around, and you can literally see that in the time, the ratings, and the demographics. Logan Paul brings a young crowd with him, and those are future wrestling fans. In fact, they're also future wrestlers. There are people out there right now who are watching Logan Paul in the WWE and thinking, hey, I could do that. Whereas they're not seeing it when they see a Randy Orton, a Roman Reigns, a Becky Lynch. They're not seeing it in the same way. They're seeing one of their idols flying about like Shawn Michaels, and suddenly it's gaining traction. Logan Paul brings a brand new audience that the WWE have been looking to tap into for decades now. Their average age of viewer was in the 60s, and they've brought it down to the 30s, a large part of that being people like Logan Paul. Whenever he appears, you can see the rating pop. He knows what he's doing, he knows how to get eyes, and while he has that attention, he knows what to do on screen because of his automatic heel nature and the fact that he's so good at this. The question is, how many of them are eyes worth having? Because of Logan Paul's previous controversies, his audience isn't necessarily a positive one. In fact, a large part of that audience does follow a lot of fake news, does follow a lot of political campaigns, does act in certain ways which are not necessarily conducive to being good people. Thankfully, there is a flip side to that, and a large part of the audience are positive and literally just looking at Logan Paul to laugh at him rather than with him. But just to reference once again that Suicide Forest, there's a hell of a lot of people that laughed with him in that moment, and they're now starting to watch wrestling and becoming part of the fandom that you are also a part of. The most recent controversy has to be the open transphobia, where Logan Paul declared, with no knowledge whatsoever, that a boxer in the Olympics was a man. They weren't. They're still not. They never have been. This, of course, has been grabbed onto by so many members of his audience, and it's far from him alone that's part of this problem. There were hundreds of accounts, high-profile audiences, misgendering this individual. Not only that, but how many people completely failed to apologise properly afterwards. You know what Logan Paul said? Oopsie, men still shouldn't compete in women's sports though. That's correct. That's why they don't. As you might expect, these transphobic comments have made Logan Paul very unpopular with a lot of people backstage in the WWE. If you've watched the SummerSlam match versus LA Knight, Logan Paul got hurt. He got hurt badly, and there are serious questions over how accidental a lot of it was, at least from where I'm sitting. Speculation on my part. A lot of people in the women's locker room have turned firmly against Logan Paul, particularly those who do have a more androgynous look that maybe Logan Paul could well target. There are also individuals in the men's locker room who are not happy with this situation. CM Punk openly supports trans rights. Trans rights are human rights. He's been very on board with that. This is not something that Logan Paul seems to believe, and CM Punk versus Logan Paul is a match that was being discussed. The Rock, while a registered Republican, is not a transphobe. As such, a match between Logan Paul and The Rock that was being discussed is now in jeopardy as well. Logan Paul seems to be his own worst enemy, and in addition to that, he risks the WWE reputation as well. I would not be surprised to find that Talent Relations, after having had conversations with Logan Paul about his transphobic comments, have decided and recommended, I should say, that Triple H doesn't use him for a while for things to calm down. Logan Paul was already expected to lose the United States Championship to LA Knight at SummerSlam. Originally that exact result had been planned for WrestleMania, but Logan Paul was making appearances with the belt and drawing further attention to the WWE, so the match was pushed back. We are here now, the championship has changed, and Logan Paul can, quietly, take a very long break and maybe think about what he's been doing. Where do you sit on the Logan Paul fence? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, we'll see you for WTF Wrestling next week.